Welcome back, True Seeker. In light of tomorrow, March 27th, 2025, being 1,028 days since the protester at the French Open on June 3rd, 2022 took the court with the t-shirt, we have 1,028 days remaining. It is quite interesting that on the eve of this day, the European Union put out a warning telling European citizens to stockpile 72 hours worth of supplies. Interesting number, right? If you missed the short video I just did going back over our post from June of 2022 pointing to this day, March 27th, you can check that out. Again, the Jesuit fingerprints were all over it. And of course, in Gematria, Jesuit order equates to 72 the small way. The Jesuit order equates to 201 the big way, just like the European Union equates to 201. And again, it's a reminder that Pope Francis is the first Jesuit Pope. He became the Jesuit Pope on the 72nd day of the year, March 13th, 2013. And he's the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican. And if you're a veteran here, you know the rest of the list. But yeah, how interesting that this happens at the same time. Again, that girl's warning from June 3rd, 2022 was at the French Open when the Jesuits were created in Paris, France. To read a little bit of the reporting, European Union citizens should stockpile enough food and other essential supplies to sustain them for at least 72 hours in the event of a crisis, the EU Commission has said. In new guidance released Wednesday, that's today, March 26th, the Commission stressed the need for Europe to shift its mindset to foster a culture of preparedness and resilience. The 18-page document warns that Europe is facing a new reality marred with risk and uncertainty, citing Russia's full-scale war in Ukraine. Remember, Biden and Putin met 201 days into the first ever Jesuit nation year before that war began in the Donbass region, which equates to 201. Just like how that war began in a 201 ritual, so did the one in Israel. And you know what else is interesting about this war talk is today is the 85th day of the year. It's a reminder that the war in Israel began October 7th, the day leaving 85 days left in the year. Remember, the Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, equates to 85, like the word Templar equates to 85. And again, the Jesuits have the Templar cross in the middle of their logo. They're the modern-day military of the Pope, whereas the Templars were the former military of the Pope. Again, war is the conversation. Citing Russia's full-scale war in Ukraine, rising geopolitical tensions, sabotage of critical infrastructure, and electronic warfare as prominent factors. Remember, the Jesuits keep simulating cyber attacks, and I think, for those of us who live for another 50 or so years, we're going to see April 19th becoming a recurring date for cyber attacks. Date of infamy in history is April 19th. For the record, cyber attack equals 109. It's also the day in history Ignatius of Loyola became the first superior general of the Jesuits. The Brussels initiative appears to serve as a wake-up call for member states to the gravity of the bloc's security situation. An ever-present threat from Russia has prompted European leaders to stress the need for war readiness, as has the Trump administration's confrontational approach towards Europe, particularly on contributions to NATO and on the war in Ukraine, which has sparked a race on the continent to shore up its own military readiness. Remember this glitch, or whatever they're calling it, that happened with Pete Hegseth, the Jesuit puppet who was picked as the nominee to head our military on the Superior General's birthday. That's the leader of the Jesuits. Remember this slip-up they just had a big word that's part of that is, the paper that the journalist was a slip-up for. The Atlantic, the thing that separates the United States from Europe. Where once upon a time people crossed the sea to escape the tyranny of the governing force of Europe, which was the Catholic Church who the Jesuits serve. It's Jesuit order, 72 hours of supplies. The Commission's European Preparedness Union strategy says citizens across the continent should adopt practical measures to ensure they are ready in case of an emergency. This includes having enough essential supplies to last them for a minimum of 3 days, the document says. In this case of extreme disruptions, the initial period is the most critical, it says. So These days they're saying to get ready for the 86th day of the year. That's tomorrow, 1,028 days after the protesters said we have 1,028 days. The 87th day of the year and the 88th day of the year. And 86th, we know that number can get ugly. You don't want to get 86th, but it goes, the warning's through the 88th day of the year. And of course, part of this story is how Trump has given Europe the cold shoulder, saying they won't necessarily protect them from, any Russian militarism. Remember, in Gematria, Trump equates to 88, as does Holy Roman Empire, as does the name Vladimir, as in Putin. Overall, civilians should be encouraged to foster self-reliance and psychological resilience, the document states. I would agree with that. That's what everybody should have in this world. They've been making cupcakes. They've been making cupcakes out of people. The commission also calls for the introduction of preparedness lessons in the school curricula, including giving pupils the skills to fight disinformation and information manipulation. Well, the problem is they've been doing that and actually screening out all the truth tellers of the world and getting the youngins to listen to the authorities who got nothing but lies. New realities require a new level of preparedness in Europe, President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen said in a statement. Our citizens, our member states, and our businesses need the right tools to act both to prevent crises and to react swiftly when a disaster hits. The European Commission's guidance on Wednesday comes after individual countries have been updating their contingency plans. In June last year, Germany updated its framework directive for overall defense, giving direction on what to do should conflict break out in Europe. Unveiling the plans at the time, German Interior Minister Nancy Fraser said they were necessary for the country to arm itself better in the face of Russian aggression. Of course, don't forget the Jesuit Klaus Schwab from Germany, the leader of the World Economic Forum, who's been simulating a lot of this destruction. So yeah, what a coincidence. That warning came from the European tournament in France where the Jesuits were created, and now this. How perfect. Don't forget, Paris equates to 72 like Jesuit order, and that warning came from Paris at the French Open. Don't call it a coincidence. And until next time, Truth Seeker.